We'll wrap up the Sunday Six this week with what we're calling the September superlatives. The calendar flipped to October over the weekend. I have no idea how that happened. Season feels like it's flying by already, but we've got 1 month and 4 weeks worth of games to look back on. So yeah, why not do some superlatives? Why not remember the first month of the season fondly? So I've got 5 categories I'm going to take y'all through as we reminisce about September. I can't wait to see how some of this stuff has aged by December or January. We'll start off with the best game of the first 4 weeks, the best game of September, my favorite game anyway. Apparently, this one surprised some of my producers, but I'm going to go with week 3, Chargers at Vikings. The Chargers go into Minneapolis and beat the Vikings 28-24. My reasoning for this, to quote Marie Kondo, I love mess. I love chaos and just weird games. And that's what this was. A meeting of 2022 playoff teams who were surprisingly 0-2. Loser has a very faint shot of making the playoffs, and it didn't disappoint. Brandon Staley goes for it on 4th and 1 from his own 24-yard line, up by 4 points with 1:51 to play, and he doesn't get it. And the only thing more chaotic than that is that the Vikings squander the easy scoring opportunity with an end zone interception. Kirk Cousins and Kevin O'Connell can't get on the same page. It's exactly what I wanted from a Chargers-Vikings game. And it ended in as much chaotic fashion as I could have hoped for. Absolutely delivered. Yes, the Chargers played a classic against the Dolphins in week 1. There were plenty of good games in September, but this will be the one I think I remember the most looking back on September of 2023 for the pure chaos of it all, and I loved it. Biggest surprise, maybe week 4 is influencing me here, but I think my answer here is the Houston Texans. We already talked about CJ Stroud. We don't need to get too deep into it, but what the Texans look like as opposed to what I thought they looked like is night and day. And you could say the same thing about the Arizona Cardinals, but 2 key differences. One, the Texans have fought their way back to 500 while the Cardinals are 1-3, but also you're building around something here. Arizona's in this weird situation where, as good as Josh Dobbs is, Kyler Murray's hurt. You're not sure when he's coming back. No, CJ Stroud is the guy you drafted. He is the future, and he looks every bit the part. The Texans, absolutely not the easy out that I thought they were. I will throw a shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They improved to 3-1 by beating the Saints on Sunday. Baker Mayfield having a little bit of a renaissance, a worthy runner up, but I think it's the Texans just because of how exciting Stroud is. Speaking of exciting rookies, breakout player, who other than Puka Nacua? Our own Peter Schrager tipping us off that he might be a heck of a player before the season even started. Even Peter didn't see this coming. For that matter, Peter's sources didn't see this coming. I mean, it's one thing for a 5th-round pick out of BYU to scratch out a role on offense. With his performance on Sunday in the overtime win against the Colts, Puka Nacua has now set the NFL record for a rookie. 39 catches through his first 4 games, 501 yards, both records. Oh, and his first career touchdown is a walk-off from Matthew Stafford to put this game away in overtime. It's mystifying, honestly. Again, it'd be one thing if he was averaging 2 or 3 catches a game. You're like, oh, kid's not bad. 5th-round pick. No, he's been one of the stars of the season. He's one of the best receivers statistically in the NFL through the first 4 weeks. Incredible story, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. Offensive MVP, it's got to be Tua Tagovailoa. Not his day on Sunday, threw a pick in Buffalo, but through the first 4 weeks, the guy's still sitting on 1,300 passing yards. He's thrown 9 touchdowns after 4 games. It's going to get interesting now. Josh Allen re-announced himself week 4, but I think the 3 picks against New York in the season opener eliminates him from consideration here because we're not awarding MVP. We're awarding MVP for September. And I think it's definitely Tua. And when you consider these statistics, I do think he's going to be right in the thick of the MVP conversation, provided he stays healthy. And by the way, that's a big storyline that's followed him. Perfect bill of health through the first 4 games of the season. Hopefully it stays that way. Defensive MVP, I think it's Micah Parsons. I think if you are a Browns fan or a Steelers fan, you have every right to be annoyed with me. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, there are plenty of defenders having phenomenal seasons. I think Micah Parsons is let's just call it what it is. He's the face of one of the biggest teams in the league and one of the most dominant defensive performances in the league. I mean, few teams are racking up these lopsided wins the Cowboys are. Oh, and on top of that, Parsons has the stats to go with it. 4 sacks through 4 games, 6 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits. He leads the league in pressures, did not record a sack week 4 against New England, but he's still on pace for a sack a game, and he led the Cowboys in pressures against the Patriots despite missing time with an ankle injury. And yeah, he's pressuring the quarterback more often than anybody in the league. And with the way the Cowboys get after teams, with the way they've been building up these leads, he's going to have so many opportunities to rush the passer. He's my MVP through the first 4 weeks. I'm confident Myles Garrett and plenty of other guys will have something to say about that. Let's wrap it up with the best team. Again, for the month of September, it is the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I know they lost by 28 points on Sunday. I still think they're deserving of this award, mainly because we weren't sure what to expect from Miami coming into the year. Like on September 4th, before the season even started, I could have told you that the Eagles and the 49ers had a good shot to be undefeated. They would be contenders. I could have told you about the Bills and the Cowboys. Nobody saw this from Miami right out of the gate. Nobody saw them announcing themselves as a big-time contender, scoring 150 points on the season, having a 70-point day. They scored more points than anybody in the league by a full 25 points. That's basically a full game. Yeah, that's what happens when you score 70, right? People are talking about nicknaming this offense. Maybe that was premature based on the fact that they scored 20 points in a loss to Buffalo. But clearly they are, when you think about the month of September this season, this is the team that's going to come to mind, largely because they scored 70 points. They scored a point total we haven't seen since the 60s. Yeah, I would say they're deserving of it. But that's not good enough for Miami now. I think the expectations have changed. And what'll be interesting is to see how silly this looks. Like, are they going to stay in this conversation for the next 3 months? Or will we be looking back in January and saying, remember when the Dolphins were the team of September? I don't think that's going to be the case, but it's on them to rebound from that loss in Buffalo and prove me right.